assume most of us, if not all of us, have actually attended events put together by motivational speakers, where we listen to things that actually prop us up and all of that. Sometimes this can actually happen in the church as well, depending on what the sermon is on that day, and you come out feeling like a Superman. You feel so strong, like you can carry the whole. But exactly how long does it last? Don Fila compares it to you actually taking a hot bath in the cold weather. Usually you pray for hot water when it's really very cold. For those who are not strong enough, to actually bath with the cold water in the cold weather. Now what happens is, you get refreshed, you get relaxed while you're using the hot water to bath. But exactly how long do you remain that comfortable for? As soon as you are out of the bath, shortly after you're back in the same situation that you are in. So he tried to differentiate what motivation is in two ways: down motivation as well as up motivation. Now it says up motivation is actually the key type of motivation that anybody in this business requires and needs from you, the sponsor. Down motivation, as necessary and as important as it is usually not enough, because it only lasts a while. When we attend events like this, there are certain people that will come to speak to you. That if you are not careful, if you have your cash here and you are not already on the platform, you will drop cash. There are certain people that will speak to you that you will run back home to get cash or your check. Those kind of messages you hear from these people are actually messages that motivate action. You say, but you need more than that to actually progress in this business. And that's exactly what Don Fila describes in napkin presentation 9. Looking at the diagram right before us here, like I said, it describes the down motivation as a hot bath that refreshes you only for a while, and eventually you go back to your normal self. Why the up motivation is something that remains constant. Down motivation will be for a while, and sometimes it can actually go up and down like a yo-yo. Okay. Now it says about attitude. Before I describe up motivation, it says about attitude. Before an individual actually, for example, an individual that needs to talk about this business to a prospect or to somebody else will probably need some percentage of attitude, like he describes it. Let's say, for instance, you need about 50% of your attitude in percentage level for you to feel confident enough to approach somebody and talk to somebody about this business. He advises usually that, if you have anything lower than 50%, you are most likely not in a good situation to talk to anyone about your business. Because outside there you have so many negative minded people as far as this is concerned, that need a whole lot of information before they probably get sold on what you are talking about. So if you are not strong enough yourself, the likelihood that you yourself will turn negative, despite the fact that you have visited a prospect to market something to you, is really very high. Okay? So the idea is you need a 50% attitude or more for you to actually talk to somebody. But it says in a situation where you have, I hope you can hear me still. Okay, I don't want to swear with the mic. In a situation where you have your attitude level even up to 65 and 70, and you are really shooting high, and you are in top gear, and you are talking to a prospect, sometimes maybe within the families of some of these people that are actually trying to market the opportunity of the business, they get discouraged. Probably from people who have had previous experiences that were not too pleasant. Probably they have had experiences with people in previous businesses, previous companies, who were more interested in making money from them than actually building a business for them. So in the process of marketing or sharing the opportunity with them, you get demotivated as well. So the person who has risen far above 50% eventually drops down and probably needs the support of the sponsor to prop him back up again above 50%. Now there is no guarantee that even after it goes up, it will not continue to come up and down. That's the idea, behind the fact that down motivation motivation that comes from up, you know, that propels your head into action and all of that, really doesn't guarantee entirely what you need. Now, this is what it describes as down motivation. In this business, by the time you sponsor anyone into this business, when results start to show, you have very little to talk about. Now, the confidence level of everybody builds with the percentage of results that they actually achieve. So he advises that you build and motivate people from the bottom. He says to motivate some, build under them. Now, please don't misconstrue this to mean actually supporting members with prospects by putting prospects under them. It can be part of it, depending on the situation. But the idea is you help your sponsored members, you teach them and help them to sponsor as well. Now, what this is pointing out as well has to do with some napkin presentations that we have treated before now, right from yesterday. The idea of people recruiting members and moving on to other people without giving enough support to those that you have brought in. Now, the moment you have sponsored somebody, you have a responsibility to support that person, teach them what you do, and help them sponsor their own first level people who become your own second level. Now, as you do this, the motivation level actually has a tendency to increase as they start to see results. You get your first 5, sponsor your first 5, like we said yesterday, teach and sponsor your first 5 to sponsor their own first 5, that comes to your second level, and you teach them as well to teach those ones to sponsor, and it goes on that. Now there's a possibility that in that building process, you come across what we call a gold shape. You have heard that severally here. Everybody who actually gets interested and comes on board will come on board as a silver shape. Now every silver shape has a tendency to grow into a gold shape. Along the line, if you look at the second diagram here, let me actually use this particular one to describe. We have Carol, Tom, and Bill. Building from the bottom, which is what John Fowler calls down motivation, creates the required motivation that is sustainable. Like I said, somebody who has, you read within the last 2 days, yesterday and today, you probably heard about stories about people who have won their brand new cars, people who are traveling abroad, people who have been abroad, and people who have experienced all sorts of things. Like my sister Kalatu said, while she was away, she saw in her wallet income that was like twice a banker's salary. You do not need to say too much story to such people after such results. That's what up motivation actually does to people. When the motivation comes from the bottom. In the diagram you have before me, you have Carol, who has sponsored Tom, and Tom, who has sponsored Bill. The excitement builds right from the bottom. In this particular diagram, Bill, that is the person on the second level of Carol, actually goes out the following week and sponsors 5 new people. In the case of Carol, Carol has only sponsored Tom, and Tom has only sponsored Bill. But the following week, you hear news that Bill goes out and sponsors 5 new people. The action that Bill has actually taken in that particular week has a tendency to excite and motivate everybody right up there. So basically, that's what motivation talks about. Now, if you look at the next diagram here, work with your goals. The diagram about Bill is a situation where you have a gold shape. Somebody who is able to deliver results, very early while in the business. Now it says that every time you identify a gold, somebody that has the potential of a gold member within your team, work closely with them so that they help to build the motivation and the excitement that you need within your team. So basically that's what this explains. Going on. Okay, I try to explain this as well. Sue, in this diagram, was sponsored by me, for example. Okay? Now, all of the motivation that can come from school is, I mean, talking about our team,